And I did share a platform with him in Mississippi a few weeks ago. I was there to talk about Brexit and possible crossover with the American elections. And what struck me, meeting the audience afterwards, were the sheer numbers of them that had never voted in their lives, but saw Trump as being the big fight back against an establishment that had got too rich, too powerful, and was ignoring their views. And to me, it's why I've thought ever since then that whatever the opinion polls say, they may well be wrong. After all, they were wrong about Brexit when on the day of that referendum, what a respected pollster put the Remain side 10 points in the lead. I'm also picking up around the States that tens of millions of people are registering to vote who have never voted before. And I'm guessing that quite a few of those may be on Trump's side. Now, I've been involved with this debate for 25 years. And one thing I can tell you is that in the European Union, if the people reject any aspect of EU membership, there's a long, fine, I think indeed proud tradition that they're made to vote again until they give the right answer, or they are simply completely ignored. It started with Denmark way back in 1992 when they rejected the Maastricht Treaty and were made to vote again. Twice the Irish people have rejected European treaties and been made to vote again. And when the French and the Dutch voted against the European Constitution just over 10 years ago, well, what they got was something called the Lisbon Treaty without any powers removed. And in April this year, I was over in Amsterdam campaigning in a referendum there where the Dutch people rejected getting the Ukraine more closely politically involved with the European Union. And yet this week, we're told, the Dutch are actually going to tell the European Union they're now prepared to go on with the deal. So this has been going on for a long, long time. I can remember after the Irish rejected the Lisbon Treaty, and I was there in the Parliament with Mr. Barroso, and we weren't exactly on speakers and best terms. I remember my speech saying, just what part of the word no don't you guys understand? And I feel it's all happening again, and that Blair genuinely thinks that they can stop us from leaving the European Union. But in particular, it's the argument around the single market that interests me, because during the referendum campaign, everybody on my side of the argument and everybody on the other side of the argument said, if we vote to leave, we're leaving the single market. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing actually isn't relevant. I thought it was clear. I thought what we'd voted for was perfectly clear. So when I saw Blair coming out with all of this yesterday, I have to confess, I was pretty bloomin' angry. And it would also mean, if we stay in the single market, some degree of free movement of people. So if you think about it, as far as I'm concerned, every single thing that we voted to get out of in this referendum, we're now being told, not just by Lord Mandelson, not just by people like Tony Blair, but Tory MPs like Nadeem Sahawi telling us we must stay part of this single market. And I'm just beginning to wonder and to worry, are we on the edge, perhaps, of a great betrayal? Because whichever side you voted in that referendum, 17.4 million people voted for us to leave the EU. It was the biggest exercise in democracy ever in the history of this country.
Secondly, I do hope you do get into the Lords, because A, I think you'll liven the place up, even though I disagree with most of what you stand for.
Right.
and B, yeah, I mean, it would make politics more interesting.
Right, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And B, and I mean, this is said in the nicest way, it opens the way for Mrs May to bring you into government to help sort out the mess that some of us think we're now in. And I mean, at least you're passionately believe in coming out, and you'd perhaps be better than some sort of Remainers doing it. So
Well, Charlie, you're very sweet, and I, I mean, look, yes, I'm very passionate about us coming out. You're right, and if I was to go to the House of Lords, though I'm not going to, but I'd probably liven up the dining room and the bar. That's for certain. If not the chamber itself. But we'll have to see.